Welcome back. I want to start off by apologizing that I haven't made a video on this channel in a while. It's just the NHL's been very busy. My schedule just hasn't had that allowance. So this morning I'm carving out some time to talk about some wrestling stuff. So if you're interested in the wrestling stuff, welcome. If you're not, there will be other videos. The NHL's regular season comes to an end in less than 2 weeks. At that point, I start getting more time. There'll be more videos on this channel, and I'm going to start, getting into the weeds with baseball a little bit and discussing some stuff, maybe some torpedo bat stuff, that kind of thing. But I wanted to start off with this. I had an idea the other night, and I thought, with how ridiculous wrestling has got, and it is ridiculous now, it's always been kind of ridiculous, but where it is right now, it's just, we'll talk about it. I've come up with a name for a wrestler, Eventual Lee. Now, what I want Eventual Lee to do is, so you've got the good guys in the ring, and there's three bad guys beating him up. The music for Eventual Lee hits. I don't care what his entrance music is. Maybe it's Why Can't We Be Friends, something along those lines. I want him to come out with a big smile on his face. I want him to dance on the stage. I want him to high five every single fan as he very slowly makes his way down the ramp towards the ring. By the time he gets to the ring to make the save, I want the bad guys to have already left because their damage is done. I want the good guy to already be getting medical attention from trainers, referees, whoever. And then I want Eventual Lee to kind of take credit for making the save when he wasn't there in time. I would like to thank Jeff Hardy for inspiring this idea, because when I see somebody come out to make a save and they do a dance on the stage before they slowly make their way to the ring, or sometimes quickly, it just looks weird. It looks weird. One of the weirdest things in wrestling now, and this didn't used to be a thing. I'm old enough to remember. You got a good guy in the ring, you've got some bad guys beating him up, and other good guys come out to make the save. No music used to play. These guys would come out to the ring as well in their clothes, like their regular plain clothes, like they're done for the night sometimes. And now you got to get a whole production out of it. Now you got a good guy getting beat up. There's like four guys, so they got to cue up the audio, and then they got to come out and they got to take their time and they high five on their way to the. What are you doing? You're trying to sell this idea that the babyface is getting beat up by the heels, and you're going out there to save them from getting beat up more. And instead, you're high-fiving on the way to the ring and you're dancing. So I want Eventual Lee. I want it to be so ridiculous. I want him to take so long, and I want the announcers, by about the third time he does this, to say, "Oh God, no, not him." I want him to be the super twins of wrestling, where when that music plays to make the save, everybody knows damn well he's not going to make it to the ring in time. And eventually he'd have to be a heel if he doesn't start out as a heel in the first place. Of course, then if he's a heel, when's he going to make the save? But I think it's a character that would work. I do. And if there were still E-Feds, and if I had the time for E-Feds, that's the character I would create. That's what he would do. And it would boggle the minds of people. And in terms of his wrestling, he has to be not good. He has to be not good. For this to work, he also has to be not good. So if he did make it to the ring in time, he gets beat up too. It makes no difference. And so eventually, nobody's high-fiving him. He's kind of, celebrating with himself. Sort of like, if he took a trust fall off a stage, people would just move out of the way and let him hit the floor. That kind of thing. This is driving me nuts. So with the wrestling, I do have time to watch this. Normally, YouTube clips, because now WWE and AEW just put the whole show right on YouTube, which is great. That's great. That works. It works for people like me who may not watch the whole show. So it does help to keep people aware of what's going on. The cameras are too close. We can see everything. We can hear everything. And when it's wrestling, it's really not a good idea to have the cameras that close, because then people will complain about, I heard them calling spots. Of course you did. The camera was 6 inches away from their face. So of course you heard them calling spots. Of course you saw how fake that move looked. And when a move is not executed all that well, having a camera that close makes it look way worse. And it used to be that like you'd have a close-up shot on a special occasion during like a really big match, and now it's just all the time. And it's like, all right, so it just takes me out of it. Like the whole security thing. When you get that close, you can see the security guys are not actually trying to restrain anybody. There's no effort being made to restrain anybody. They're actually not touching the wrestler 80% of the time. And it's just it turns the whole thing into a joke. There was one, I'm trying to remember which show it was, where I showed Yvonne this battle that goes all over the arena, and these two guys are beating each other up, and there's security, and they keep jumping on security. And she thought it was it was Tiffany and Charlotte. It was the Tiffany and Charlotte thing. And I don't know if I've mentioned this video, but I'll mention it here. You should not have people that do not watch wrestling laughing at your big segment. And that whole thing was, she laughed all the way through it. She thought it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. If you've not seen the Tiffany Charlotte brawl all around the arena, you can tell the security guys aren't even trying to restrain, and they're kind of like around. And I understand you don't want to get like some kind of accusation that you grabbed something you shouldn't, and that you got a little too handsy. But it just looks ridiculous. It was so dumb. And she's like, wait, why is she jumping off of there? And I'm like, because it looks good. And then she's like, but it's stupid. Why would you do that? So yeah, that's the whole camera's too close, and it just looks ridiculous. People should not be laughing when they watch professional wrestling about how insane it is, unless it's the Gimmick Battle Royal from WrestleMania X7, which I did share with Yvonne the other night, because she had never seen any of those gimmicks, and she's like, what? And I said, right. And then there's people arguing on the internet about how serious this is, and then the Gimmick Battle Royal also exists. The whole Charlotte thing, though, so apparently they went off script, Charlotte and Tiffany, and when I watched it before they deleted it. I watched that exchange, and my jaw dropped, because I was like, okay, this is very different than these scripted promos that they usually do. This is CM Punk level of, I don't know if they were supposed to say that. I think, and I my honest opinion is this. Tiffany had an exchange with Charlotte the week before where I thought Tiffany got her ass handed to her from a perspective of promo. I was like, if Tiffany can't cut a promo better than that, this whole thing looks bad. Charlotte just, ate her lunch. And yet, when I saw that segment and you could see Tiffany was taking really personal shots at Charlotte, I was like, okay, so there's a little more bite to this. But is Tiffany actually coming across as the baby face or the heel? Tiffany is not a natural baby face at all. She is not a natural baby face. So the problem is the crowd clearly does not want Charlotte. The fans in general not interested in Charlotte taking over and all this. And yet it seems like that's probably what's going to happen. I'll be interested to see if Triple H learns from mistakes that Vince would make. Vince would not listen to the crowd, and he just put the title wherever. At times that works. In this case, I don't think it will. I think if Charlotte beats Tiffany in any fashion, I think, and takes the title. If it's by DQ, something like that, and she doesn't actually get the belt, I don't think people will care so much. They'll resent the whole angle if it ends in a DQ finish. But fans do not want Charlotte. And I don't know how you fix that. The interview she gave where she was talking about her divorce and things like that, it just, I don't know. I don't think that's going to work. I don't think fans today are going to go, well, we feel sympathetic because I think they've made up their mind on Charlotte and they want somebody else to have that title. That's what they want. So we'll see if the rest of this feud tones things down. If either of them get some sort of punishment for going off script. I get the feeling Tiffany went off script first, but it could very well have been Charlotte. We remember the infamous belt flinging incident at Becky. Charlotte can go into business for herself, and she is in a position where she's well known enough that she could probably get away with it, because they're not going to fire her. So yeah, it's interesting. AEW has become mostly unwatchable. Anything that involves the Death Riders, I have no interest in it whatsoever. I've gone from being a huge Dean Ambrose fan of WWE to going, well, it's Moxley, so I'm not interested. There's nothing Moxley does that I find all that interesting. And Harley Cameron is the gift that keeps giving. She is, without a doubt, the most creative thing that they've done. She's the first actual, I think, superstar that I feel like they've created. Like, there's others. Obviously, I'm going to talk about the Lucha Bros. There's others that have become better known across North America because of AEW. But Harley, it feels like, is an AEW creation. And she's just fantastic. Harley Cameron might be the most naturally entertaining wrestler. And when I see her backstage in an interview segment where you've got Mercedes Moné, the former Sasha Banks, alongside her, I honestly thought Harley delivered a better promo. I was like, wow, Harley's been in this business for how long? And her promo skills are fantastic. They are excellent. She honestly could portray crazy better than almost anybody else I've seen. Obviously, from a woman's perspective, the comparison would be AJ Lee. I think she could do the AJ Lee thing. I absolutely think she could, and be excellent at it. I just do wonder with Harley if there's a certain ceiling for what she's going to be able to do in AEW, and if she did end up in WWE, if that ceiling might be a little bit higher. Because, and this actually transitions nicely into the Lucha Brothers. So we've seen Penta come in. Penta's been treated like a star, although I don't like the feud they've had him stuck in. I don't think that's doing him any good at all. Although if it does lead to him getting a belt from Braun Breaker, all right. But the Ludwig Kaiser feud was going nowhere. Just nowhere. Ludwig Kaiser clearly at this point is lower card, and he loses too often to be taken seriously as a contender, and so Penta being stuck in a feud with him for as long as he has been, I don't think it's done a lot for Penta. But Rey Fenix may very well be what Vince McMahon always wanted. Vince was always looking for the next Rey Mysterio. The next masked luchador who could sell a bunch of masks, who the fans would absolutely love, and that they could get over. And they really haven't had that. They've had some stops and starts along the way. I think Penta and Rey Fenix could be the guys. And it is amazing to see how well received they've been by WWE audiences and the production put into their entrances. What I like with the Rey Fenix entrance, so that they've got on the Titantron there, if they still call it that. But what they've got there is it's similar and it echoes the Penta entrance. It's the same font that they use for both wrestlers. I think it's kind of fun. So the Lucha Brothers and the way that they've been treated, or Lucha Bros, the way they've been treated, it has to inspire people from AEW to say, you know what, they're actually treating them like stars over there. Maybe we should go over there. So we know Rusev's coming back. We know Aleister Black is basically going to be back too. And it is interesting to see, it is reminiscent of WCW. WCW, the mistake that they made, and I know there's been a million different broadcasts that have got into it. I'm sure there's a million different YouTube videos. Really, the essence of it is WCW brought in these old guys from WWF, because it was WWF at the time, and put them over at the expense of the wrestlers that were homegrown talent or had come over from Mexico or had come from other promotions, regional promotions. And those guys just got walked on by all these older wrestlers who could not wrestle the way they used to. And so what's going on in AEW right now is you've got Moxley, whose wrestling skill has deteriorated. Or he's being exposed for not being a very good wrestler. Maybe WWE did a good job of covering that up. But what we've got him fighting with Edge, who's now Cope. Terrible, terrible name change. Just be Adam Copeland. Just be Adam. Just rated R superstar works. Just Cope is coping. But when you've got these guys who are basically my age, and I think Adam Copeland is in his 50s, same as me. I don't know how many people are excited for that necessarily. And so the younger, the underappreciated in AEW are going to go to WWE, the same as the underappreciated in WCW went to WWF, and Vince made them stars. And I feel like Triple H has the ability to make these guys real, true household names, and it is going to be noticed by a lot of the undercard in AEW that I think a move would work. Ricky Starks, for instance, is being treated like he's legitimate in in NXT right now, and I think the move to NXT for him is perfect. You build him up in there and move him up to the main roster. I think that can work. And as soon as I saw Ethan Page attack him the other night, I'm like, okay, this feud is going to be fantastic. Both of these guys are excellent on a microphone. They know each other from AEW. This could absolutely be an excellent feud. So we're getting a chance to see something different and some feuds that are going to be a lot of fun to watch. And when guys go from one company to another, it very often becomes something very different when they fight each other in the second company compared to when they fought each other in the first. So I am kind of excited about what's going on in the wrestling world right now, even though, because of the NHL schedule, I haven't had time to watch a lot of it. The Cena Cody build has been perfect. The problem is I haven't seen any kind of reason for The Rock to be at Mania at all. No reason. This build has been perfect. And like Cody and Cena, when that match drops next weekend, it's next weekend's Mania, right? Some weekend. I don't know. I mean, I could go get a calendar, I guess. But either way, this match I think is going to be fantastic. It doesn't need The Rock. There's no need for The Rock to come out and help Cena or screw over Cody. It doesn't need that. They have told a story so well. They have made it compelling enough. I watch those entire segments. I make sure I find the time to watch the entire segment with Cody and The Rock. I'm like, all right, let's go. I will admit I skipped the ring entrances a little bit because those can take a while. That is something that wrestling has gotten out of control with. The amount of time it takes for these guys to get to the ring is insanity. It is used to be there'd be a couple of guys that took a little while and milked the crowd reaction. Now it feels like it happens a lot. A lot of guys just kind of stand there on stage and soak it in, and then they take their time, and then they pick up the microphone and they look around. Crowd's still reacting. They're like, yeah. And that's fine once in a while, but it's every week now, and it's a lot. And like, can we get the show on the road a little bit? Because I know when these segments are going long, and we've heard about this from the internet dirt sheets too. You're cutting down someone else's segment. You're cutting them maybe out of the show altogether. And there are a lot of wrestlers in WWE who do not get a lot of screen time, and now they're bringing new guys in. We know the firing season is right after Mania, and I get the feeling this year there could be a lot. There could be a lot of wrestlers who are on their way out, because even with all this extra time, it feels like it's being used for silly backstage segments and for guys to walk to the ring. You know, or set up a segment. It takes like 5 to 10 minutes to set something up. That it really shouldn't, ever. I'm personally of the view that a contract signing shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. And anything else that happens around that contract signing could be accomplished in another way. That it shouldn't necessarily take that long. But I understand I may be in the minority there. Yes, I do listen to Cornette. One thing about Cornette and his YouTube videos, and I use this because it's just a static image they use. There's no actual video to it. I can work on what I'm doing in here while I listen to what Cornette's saying. And 9 times out of 10, I agree with him. There are occasions where I don't. For instance, I like Kenny Omega. I think Kenny Omega could be like a top guy if he was in WWE. I think he'd be right up at Cody's level. But I understand that Cornette's not a huge fan, so that's fine. But and I do think that Kenny Omega can be a needle mover for AEW in terms of ratings as well. Although the ratings thing doesn't seem to matter as much as it probably should. For the amount of money that it's costing them to get the AEW contract, it doesn't feel like it's performing as well. But there's that. And I wanted to say, too, that the spot that they did, was it 2 weeks ago now, with the weird, like, bat that's got all the nails on it or whatever the hell. Bad idea. That's stupid. That's a spot, and it was in the Cope match with Moxley. We don't need that. It's ridiculous. It's over the top, and this is part of the reason why hardcore matches kind of went the way of the dodo in WWE. Minus, I mean, you get the occasional street fight, sure, but when they're bringing out weapons like that, it just makes it so over the top stupid. It just does. To me, it just becomes just stupid. In that case, it ground the match to a halt because it had to. And I don't know who called it. I don't know who okayed it, but honestly, and I've watched. I think it was Stevie Richards I was watching who said he could have ended up paralyzed. That could have paralyzed him because it went right into his back, and if it hits your spine, you could be paralyzed. It's that kind of careless crap, and it's the reason why I can't get into AEW as much as I'd like to, because the whole Death Riders thing, I have negative interest in the Death Rider and the Don Callis family. I have no interest in that either. I feel like it's the same. They just keep recycling everything, and it's not interesting. So when you have a storyline that's not interesting and it feels like it's not really going anywhere, but that's me personally. So there you go. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about everything I've talked about, including Eventual Lee. I think that's a character that could work, and doesn't even have to be a very good wrestler to pull that off. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.